Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's video. My name's Jeremy Haynes. I'm gonna talk to you about some great ways to keep yourself under $1 million a month, okay? There's a tremendous amount of patterns, lessons, and mistakes that people consistently make. And we're gonna jump right into it. For all those unaware, all we do on this channel is pass down lessons from the $1 million a month earners that we've worked with, help get there and help keep there, pass them down to you inside of these YouTube videos. If you're already a subscriber, welcome back. I got another banger for you here today. Pay attention. Okay, so number one, and this one is one of the most underlying fundamentals to people who make decent amounts of money that fail to make the big money, okay? And it's the fact that they get convinced that they are a risk taker, okay? There's varying levels of risk, okay? There's people who jump out of planes without a fucking parachute on, have somebody else skydive down with them with the parachute for them, link up in the air, give it to the person, they put their chute on and bam, they pull it. That is extreme risk. That's an example of risk that doesn't really pay off in any way, shape, or form financially. In order to get to like 100 to even upwards of like 500K a month, you're taking risks, but like you're not taking the necessary risks in order to hit the big $1 million months and keep them consistently there. The thing is, and I know that you can reflect on your own life as a high earner and think to yourself and convince yourself, like, look, dude, I take risks all the time. I always like to joke around saying we live in the pressure, you know, like my whole life is just pressure, okay? And I take risks literally every single day. But again, you can look around at the people who make far more money than you, and when you ultimately just reflect on what they do, it doesn't just boil down to massive consistent action and keeping themselves surrounded with top talent, okay? It's every single individual decision they make having a strong backing of risk associated with it. Like, let's just use the A player thing as a great example, right? You probably haven't nut up yet and started paying somebody like $20,000 to $50,000 a month, because you don't have anybody in your current team that you can pay 20 to 50K a month to. You don't have an incentive program that can get them there. You don't even have a business that can financially support that kind of player and that kind of payroll right now, right? Every time you stroke your payroll checks currently, it doesn't even make you wins. Because again, you're not putting your nuts on the table here. You're not truly hiring A players. A players cost a lot. But again, every single time you hire true A player talent, they drive the business forward tremendously to make room for the amount of money that they otherwise want to make. You see, again, it's a risk to take them on initially by overpaying them whatever their base is, and it feels uncomfortable. It will make you wince. It will not feel good, but doing it always pays off. There's differences as well when it comes to ad spend, okay? Some of you are so pussy, like in your core, you are just bitch made, and you don't have any willingness to put the amount of money on the line to actually make a lot of money in return. You gotta understand, this is like a good gambler's mindset as an example. If I go in and I gamble on bets, okay, and that bet has a certain win to loss ratio that's favorable for me, and in order to avoid losing money when I am gonna take a loss, and in order to technically win when I do win, I have to gamble enough to make the wins worth winning, okay? If I gamble too little just to avoid the financial downsides of the inevitable losses, when a win eventually does come around, it's not gonna actually be enough to feel something, okay? It's not actually gonna give you the level of reward that you're looking for, okay? When you're too pussy with the bets, the risk that you're willing to put on the line for the ad spend, you're not gonna win big when you do finally win, okay? There's periods of time in any business's lifespan that you have to milk the living shit out of. And there's other times where you have to fix things and improve things and get the business to a point where it can enter into the phase where you get to milk the fuck out of it. You gotta know when it's one versus the other, okay? Surprisingly, a lot of the businesses that stay stuck in that like sub $1 million a month range, they generally just choose to stay stuck. They don't pivot what time it is, okay? They don't recognize when there's certain instances where they need to do one thing over the other. And so that ends up limiting their revenue by a tremendous amount. Because again, they aren't gambling enough. They don't know when to push the chips into the middle of the table and go all in. They can't recognize when certain cards are presented to them that it's time to go all in, okay? We had a guy recently sitting at a little over a 9-to-1 ROAS, okay? Joins into the inner circle, stuck right around 400K a month. He's been at 400K a month for a little over 2 years at the time he joins in. And again, the guy's got a 9-to-1 ROAS. And I ask him as soon as he joins in, I'm like, how much money are you spending on a month-to-month basis? He tells me, and I'm like, why in the fuck are you not spending more money? And he breaks down this like whole investment plan that he has. And he talks about that out of that amount of money that he has each month, a certain percentage goes towards tax, profit, investments, staff, expenses, operating accounts, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, all right, well, that's great. But I mean, when are you gonna fucking get more money out of the current money you're making to be able to reinvest? Like, where's the reinvestment budget? He had no reinvestment budget. The reason the revenue stayed stuck at a 9-to-1 ROAS is because the guy wasn't scraping money off the top and putting it right back into the ad spend to consistently grow the business. That was the one specific revenue expense that he just failed to account for, okay? So again, my point is like, generally people, even with really good returns, can end up staying stuck because they're not focused on their risk-taking profile. That's the whole point I'm trying to make in this first emphasis to you here. They have low risk tolerance, even though they've convinced themselves they take risks relative to comparing themselves to the general population. Of course, when you compare yourself to the general population of workers, you're a risk taker. But again, we're not comparing ourselves to fucking skydivers jumping out of planes without parachutes. We're just trying to take smart, calculated money decisions, okay? You ultimately have to understand, you are a gambler, okay? You are a gambler. You have an edge in your business that's gotten you to the point where you're turning money into more money, and you have to recognize when it's time to just go all in, okay? Most people who stay sub $1 million a month, they just never reach that mindset of I'm gonna fucking go all in. I'm gonna put my balls on the table here and just go all in, okay? 2, you have to know when to take your balls off the table, okay? You have to recognize when it's time to not just convince yourself you're being a pussy, but to recognize like, all right, I'm in a fix-it mode now. I had this video on my channel where I talk about this like phases of growth, and I demonstrate like, all right, look, along your path, I gave this like Ray Dalio visual that he talks about in the book Principles, where you generally start off by figuring out something that works. You start scaling that something that works. Something inevitably breaks that you've got to fix. Then you get back to the point where you've got to scale the shit out of again. Then something breaks and you got to fix it, and then you scale it again, etc. Okay? Most of you guys, like, you'll end up being in a position where you got the something that works, you scaled it up a little bit, you hit some plateau, and you find a problem that just boxes you in, okay? And your inability to solve that problem quick fucks your growth. Like, it just stunts you immediately. It puts you in such a fucked position because you don't have any ability to go beyond the problem that's currently preventing your growth, okay? And your failure to recognize that the speed in which you move through these cycles, these problem-solution cycles, dictates reaching the next problem inevitably on the other side, and or the next scaling window inevitably on the other side. You see, in certain instances, like let's use a car as a metaphor in this case, or an analogy, right? If I have a vehicle that I just purchased and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, and I take it straight to the track, right? Let's say I get a GT3 RS and I'm out there fucking ripping it around. Now I take it off the track damn near every single time you take a car off the track. So you might need to go back and just check things like fluids. Simply put, there's just all kinds of stuff that right after you take it off the track, you have to resolve. Okay, and you just go one after the other. Refill the car's gas, check the fluid levels, check if you need new tires, get new tires on the car, test out the vehicle again, maybe do the paint correction, maybe get the new PPF, do whatever little things that you need to do. And then guess what you can do right after? Take it back on the track and fucking rip it around again, okay? Some of you get to the point where you scaled up, you hit the wall, and it takes you so long, like so long, in order to overcome whatever problem it is in front of you, okay? We call this cycle management. You have to move through cycles aggressively, okay? You cannot sit on problems. You must attack the problems with aggression, okay? You have to have an organization that wants to push cycles to completion as fast as possible, optimized for the results and efficiency, okay? You can't get caught up on things. Don't remember the author's name. Purple book, yellow accents. Has a chapter in it called Pebbles versus Boulders. Okay? One of my mentors who sold 2 businesses, Mr. Judge Graham. Now that I said his name, I can't say the exact amount of revenue that he sold it for, but it was mid-range 8 figures and low 9 figures that he sold the 2 different businesses for, okay? And long story short, Judge is one of my favorite personal mentors that I have. He put me onto this book and that specific chapter. And dude, it changed my life. Pebbles versus Boulders, okay? There's like little problems that pop up that are just the equivalent of a pebble. Pebbles are easy to just pick up, flick out of the way, and you're on to the next thing. But there's a lot more pebbles in most instances when you come across them comparatively to a boulder. A boulder is a massive fucking problem. It's something big, something that takes significant time, resources, just effort. It just takes a lot to move boulders, okay? And you gotta recognize there's a few great points that this book makes. Number one, there'll be certain problems that present themselves that, although appear as a problem, are actually meaningless to resolve. They literally have no revenue impact. They have no real implications that would otherwise prevent the business from moving forward if left unresolved, and therefore you can ignore and neglect them. You don't have to put any time, effort, attention, and or resources into those things. Sometimes you can literally just get the fuck out of my way and you just keep on going forward, okay? That's the beauty of some problems. You gotta learn, and your staff has to learn, when to neglect what, okay? There's certain little things that are gonna present themselves as pebbles that you have to be attentive to, okay? And that you do have to resolve. And if too many of these little fucking problems overwhelm you and are left unresolved that do actually have an impact into your ability to move forward, will hinder your progress, okay? You can get buried in pebbles, okay? One pebble thrown your way doesn't really do much. You get a whole village of motherfuckers throwing pebbles at you. It could hurt and potentially kill you, okay? So you need people to be able to resolve all the pebble stuff. This is that common quote of like, hey, if it takes less than 2 minutes to do, just knock it out now, that kind of thing. But again, you ignore the stuff that's not a revenue-driven action. Hey, and then the boulders. Boulders are like week-long projects, month-long progress. So sometimes multiple months of progress have to be made on a boulder to technically get it to the point of completion. But the organization as a whole has to monitor all these cycles that everybody's actively participating in. And they have to be revenue-driven cycles, okay? That's the thing, they have to be revenue-driven cycles. I'll give you a great example of this. So just recently, my organization undertook creating AI Jeremy, okay? So first thing in order to do this entire project was getting all of the training material put into a cloud storage, okay? We had to export every single message from every single platform that I've ever sent messages on. iMessage, social platforms, Telegram, Slack. Like we had to export and clean the data too. We had to clean it of like personal shit that didn't need AI Jeremy trained on. You know, we had to clean it so it was like good data. Okay, that alone, just like messages, took fucking forever. We had to do voice notes. Every single voice note I've ever sent over my professional career, same logic. Somebody had to listen to it, determine if it was worth training on, throw it into the training library, okay? We have just shy of 1,000 course videos. We had to take all of those and we had to organize it in ways that your brain is organized, where you have data that you think with top of mind that you most commonly reference, secondary data, and third order data. Third order data, as an example, in this case for training an AI model, would be things that like it needs to know but aren't necessarily the things it needs to reference most often. You know, these are more like niche things that, you know, it could talk about, but again, not gonna be top of mind. Layer 1 and layer 2 are much more frequently referenced when people ask it questions in the varying questions that they'll ask. Okay? We had to get every single individual podcast, YouTube video, speaking gig, mastermind talk, literally everything for an entire decade of time of my professional career into a clean set of data, uploaded and organized, and then we had to build the fucking infrastructure for this monster. Okay? Which in itself was a huge undertaking with significant costs and more time associated with it. Now, although yes, AI Jeremy is and will be an incredible revenue-driven action, it is a boulder in its finest form. It takes a lot of time to get it to the point where it can actually make money, and it just costs money and a lot of organizational effort in the meantime, okay? However, we've officially started rolling out AI Jeremy, and the impact has been insane. It has been honestly, probably blown out our expectations for what I think myself and everybody who's experienced it so far expected of it, okay? It is incredible. And again, it started the process of returning some of those dollars that I've already put into it, okay? It's helped out with our inner circle members where we do our twice a month one-on-one calls, weekly group calls, quarterly in-person masterminds in a group full of rich people trying to get richer. And by the way, just on that note, this is another good example. Like, you have to be able to determine what's actually good for you and what's not. We don't allow pussies into the inner circle. Like, we don't allow people who don't take risk into the inner circle. We don't allow people who are below revenue thresholds that we tolerate into the inner circle. Like, it is a true group of high standards, and we don't capitulate those standards for anybody, okay? We maintain a group of excellence, and it's something unlike anything else that's out there, because all these other people out there just want your money. You got to be able to differentiate when something is more valuable than the other things out there, and this comes down to all forms. This comes down to the staff you're going to hire. the mastermind groups you're going to participate in, the day-to-day decisions you make, like food quality as an example. There's differences in like the level of gyms you could go to, cities you could live in, cars you could drive, relationships. The people who make the least money and generally get stuck, they try to convince themselves that they're around A-player talent, and in reality, they're around turds, okay? They've surrounded themselves with turds and they've convinced themselves, they've gaslighted themselves into this idea that they're actually around valuable people. In reality, once you're actually in something or around people or even a person that actually has high standards and is a true A player, they will shatter, truly shatter your expectation of those around you that you've otherwise convinced yourselves are great, and it'll demonstrate to you the real standard that most of those people operate with. That's some of the great values as an example of being a part of something like the inner circle. But back to my point, we've rolled out AI Jeremy specifically to that group first because, again, they're the highest level people I could possibly roll it out to and they deserve it. Those people provided such great feedback on what it's done for them. And like I said, it went far above and beyond whatever I thought it was otherwise going to do. We've since rolled out beyond just the text functionality with it, voice and video calls. Okay, we've beyond rolling it out to the inner circle members, have since also rolled it out to our master internet marketing members. There's a high probability that eventually in videos just like these, you'll see me promote AI Jeremy in a standalone offer as well. For now though, it's only included in those two different things, which you can find links for in the description. My point being, Jeremy AI was a boulder. It was a significant problem that quite literally took months. Okay, and it's not done. It will continue to get trained on a daily basis. Everything that I document today gets uploaded into it tomorrow morning. It is literally trained 7 days a week because 7 days a week I have newly documented material that can go into it. Okay, it's remarkable. And again, there's ongoing efforts to continue to produce the necessary value from it that we want to extract from that resource. Okay, most organizations, what happens when they get projects like that? They take all of their time, energy, and attention of their business, they get sidetracked. The revenue from the other things that are currently driving the revenue go down instead of up because they don't, as an organization, understand cycle management for Pebbles and Boulders. You as a company, and every great company that does more than $1 million months, has mastered being able to have departments responsible for the different boulders that they are currently tackling, different team members that are responsible for the pebbles along the way, and revenue drivers, okay, people and daily actions that are taken that still push the revenue up in the meantime. Most of you get stuck sub-million a month because you suck at cycle management. You get too caught up and too invested into big things along the way that you need to hand off to somebody or that you need to focus on while you're also continuing the daily revenue drivers, which leads me to point 3, hyper awareness on what drives revenue, okay? This is critical. Most businesses that stay stuck do not have habits, routines, or any consistency into the key revenue drivers that they've discovered. They don't turn them into repetitive behaviors. A good example of this, generally I have to have this conversation with people who are sub 300K a month. But surprisingly, I've even seen it with people beyond that recently, which has been rather shocking to me. These people, they get to a point where they've recognized like something that works. Okay, sometimes it's the equivalent of like, let's just simplify it all down to sales activity. Okay, could be marketing, could be pitching people, could be going to event, whatever they've done to drive the revenue into the business to get them to where they're at. And what happens is they might have some level of like attention on it, but it's not like a hyper-focused level of attention that then also leads to amplification of that specific activity. That's what's critical to understand about this specific point. Okay, you have to master this. Sales activity and expansion-oriented thinking is like breathing. You sit here right now and watch this video without paying any mind to it at all, and you haven't missed a breath. You've been consistent. Maybe you're at the gym and you're breathing a little harder than normal. Maybe you're just sitting here eating lunch and you're breathing whatever fucking pattern you've got. You aren't paying attention to it. It just happens. Okay? And when you stop breathing, your life ends within a few minutes max. Okay? Sales activity in a business is the exact same. It's not fucking rocket science. If you don't see your revenue consistently going up and to the right, it's because you are not focused on sales activity and or you're not focused on the amplification of that sales activity. It is the equivalent of breathing. When you stop breathing, you will die. okay? You will die. That is the shortest possible instance of death in most instances. Just stop breathing. You can go a couple days without water. You can go almost a month without food, but breathing, you got a couple minutes, buddy. Okay, it's the same thing with sales. You will die fastest. You will stay stuck when you do not focus on maintaining, habitualizing, and having consistency followed by amplification of any and all sales activity within your organization. It has to happen. It's a mandatory thing. When you just reflect on your organization's time, look at everybody, look at the team, look at yourself. Look at every habit that carries through on a daily basis and just think about it. What's easier for most people is just to focus on some random projects. You introduce randomness into a business, that's okay for some departments and some people. Because again, once certain cycles are closed, that's it. No more attention needs to go towards them. But my God, if you don't have some department within your team that's just every single day, day in and day out, literally all they do is just focus on sales activity and amplifying it. No shit, you're stuck. No shit, you're under $1 million a month. It's not rocket science, dude. To scale revenue, you have to be focused on amplifying the activities that bring revenue. See? Simple enough, right? But yet you get sidetracked on all the shit that comes up that takes your attention far off. All right, now listen, there's so many more things I could talk about. And I do inside of my programs like my Inner Circle offer. There's a link in the description for it. Let me make this clear. Some of you guys, you like to identify as rich people, but you're not. The minimum for that group is $100,000 a month. You do not get into the group if you're not making more than $100,000 a month. And it's not like you had a one-off $100,000 a month. You have to prove consistency if you're even remotely close to that minimum. This is a group for the rich people sitting here watching this channel that this channel is truly built for. This channel that you're on right now is ideally for a person that's around a couple $100K a month. We've had guys on this channel that are already at $1 million a month trying to tack on the next $1 million, okay? And that group is perfect for you if that's the case. It's you in a group full of people that are radically transparent and honest, okay? They all share with one another what's working, what's not. We meet up 4 times a year. And we talk about how to get a hell of a lot richer than we are right now. It's one of the only things that I've ever found, and I know this sounds biased, because I have 2 biases in this case. Number 1, I get financial benefit of you joining in, and 2, I fucking run the group. But let me be extremely clear when I say this and set my biases aside. I haven't been a part of anything like this in my decade-long plus career at this point. There's not a single fucking mastermind group that I've been a part of where I genuinely feel like every person involved gives a fuck about me. You know, there's not a group that I feel a part of or that I've been a part of that's made me feel like I'm a small fry no matter the level of revenue I'm at. You do not get the feeling. We've had guys join in there that are at like $1 million a month already. Well, they get dwarfed right away by the guy doing $5 million a month in the group that's active almost every fucking couple days, okay? My point being, you gotta recognize this. This is an opportunity for those that are at that benchmark or above, that actually want to be a part of something that you've probably been looking for your entire career up to this point, okay? The Inner Circle is perfect for those that are rich, trying to get a hell of a lot richer. Those of you who are watching this channel that don't meet that threshold yet, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with you. I'm not trying to sit here and pick at you, but that offer specifically is just not for you. My Master Internet Marketing group is perfect for those that aren't at that level yet. It's 7 weeks of extremely in-depth classes on doing just that, mastering internet marketing. Each class has a different theme. They're 3 to 5 hours in length. There's dozens of videos in between each class. I structure that entire program for retention. There's worksheets throughout the live classes where we take pauses and ensure that you retain the information that you're learning. It's a very active community, and that community as well gets access to AI Jeremy in varying form. I look forward to helping you one way or the other get richer, whether it's here on YouTube, just watching videos like this for free, or although yes, the information's limited and held back, just like what I've done to you today. I can do a call like this inside of the Inner Circle or put a training like this inside of the Master Internet Marketing class that has, 10 to 20 points, I can just talk about it live in real time to the community. But if you get enough value from these things and you continue to find yourself making more money, that's awesome. It's my exact intention with these videos, to continue to help you earn while getting you to the point where you can essentially spend house money on one of my offers whenever you're ready to do so. And again, if you feel like it's finally your time, pull the trigger. The links are in the description, and I look forward to helping you in one of my paid offers. Thank you so much. Please subscribe if you're not already. And again, if you already are, thank you so much for being here. Go check out some of my other recent videos that you may have missed. Talk soon.